Fox News, I'm Ann Carrick. Following the president's primetime address last night, DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen announcing so-called enhancements for voting machines in all states to help keep American elections secure.
Illegal voter registration and illegal voting both carry penalties up to 5 years in prison and up to $250,000 in fines. We will pursue maximum pressure on this.
President Trump calling on Congress to pass more restrictive voting laws. Opponents claim the president's comments undermine Americans' faith in elections. And Taco Bell now removing the suspected source of the Cyclospora outbreak. Fox's Natalie Chuck in Los Angeles.
The CDC is now publicly connecting Taco Bell and that lettuce possibly grown in Mexico.
Taylor Farms is the biggest supplier of salad kits. America's listening to Fox News.
Life moves fast. Your checking account should too. At Farmers Bank, our personal checking accounts make managing your everyday spending simple with convenient debit card access, online banking, and no hassle. Whether you're paying bills or grabbing coffee, we've got you covered. Open your account today at the Farmers Bank location, including our Timberlake Road branch, and experience checking that works as hard as you do.
End zone, light them up, touchdown Liberty.
The atmosphere at a game is amazing. It is like family.
I've been a season ticket holder for 14 seasons. The atmosphere is electric.
Caught on the near sideline.
It's an experience. You look forward to it every week.
I like the pageantry, the band.
The pride of knowing that this is our university.
2026 Flames football season tickets are on sale now. Get yours at lufootball.com.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
Holes for Heroes is back at the 29th Annual Boonesboro Fire and Rescue Benefit Golf Tournament. Your support goes beyond teeing off Monday, July 20th at the Boonesboro Country Club. It's also sponsoring a hole or lunch, because however you support the event, you're actually helping with key services like continuing education and training, building maintenance, plus gear and equipment, including the new fire truck that's currently being built. Start your support now at BoonesboroFireRescue.org. That's BoonesboroFireRescue.org.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, and asking your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and JJ Hendrickson.
Starting our Friday coverage of the Fast Lane, presented by Black Goose Chimney Service. We are at the ACC kickoff presented by them. Get that chimney ready for winter and keep the humidity out this summer. Schedule your appointment by visiting blackgoose.net to see what can be done to make sure that chimney is safe all seasons around from Black Goose Chimney Service. Now, to kick things off on our Friday edition of the Fast Lane, defensive lineman. Should we call you defensive lineman or edge? What do you prefer, Langston Hardy?
I'll say I prefer edge.
Edge from Wake Forest, Langston Hardy. Langston, first of all, just following your career, you a couple of years ago came into Wake Forest. You have graduated early.
Right.
Between just regular NIL transfer portal opportunities, I would imagine there were opportunities to leave Wake, yet you are still in Winston-Salem playing for the Demon Deacons. Why?
Biggest thing I would start off with is obviously the locker room. You know, being around these same guys. We were able to retain a lot of guys from last year, so having a lot of the same defensive players come back was always, a big caveat for that. And then, playing for a coach like Coach Dickert, really I can't, say enough good things about him. A guy who he's believed in me since I've been here, really helped me, believe in myself even more as a player. And then he's always a high energy guy. So he's always a guy who you always want to be around. He's always smiling. So you get in the building at, 5:30 in the morning, and he's there smiling, getting you ready to go for the day. So it's really just opportunity truly blessed to have. So I never want to leave a program like this.
You mentioned that, transition to Jake Dickert. You did wonderful things with Washington State. That's a very challenging situation for many reasons up there.
Right.
Came to Wake Forest, and by a lot of our accounts, I'm sure you guys see things you could have done to have been even better last year, but maximize what you guys were able to do in year one, it seemed like. Is that a reasonable assessment that part of your confidence is his ability to get the most out of you as a player and as a group of teammates?
Yeah, definitely. He's just like, that's just what I think what he just does best. You look at his resume so far, and, a lot of places, everywhere he's been, he's won. So, just being around a guy who has that mentality, like, we're going to win in everything we do. Like, whether it's a Thursday morning workout or it's a practice on a Tuesday, everything translates to the game. So, just always having that mentality of, being built in the dark and staying in the dark and, lights out, that motto has just always been something we've held our hats on.
Langston Hardy, Edge, Wake Forest Demon Deacons with us here in the Fast Lane, kicking off our Friday edition of the Fast Lane at the ACC Kickoff presented by Black Goose Chimney Service. To get that chimney ready for the winter and prevent the humidity from impacting your chimney, visit blackgoose.net to schedule your appointment. You mentioned Jake Dickert being able to give you confidence and inspire you as a player. Where do you derive your confidence as a football player?
I think it really starts off just from my family. My dad played, professional football for a long time. My mom has always been someone who's, been there in my corner, having a brother who's, not too far off in age from me, who's, played the same sports that I've done, just being able to have, all that group together to always push me. That's really where, everything started off. Unfortunately, I had some injuries early on in my career that always, brings doubt, to a player. But then having, my parents, always being there to support me throughout that process and, just letting me know like who I am as a man and who I can be. And just that journey has always been, something that's been very special to my heart. So now being able to, flourish and hopefully continue to flourish, throughout this next year and, playing, continuing on, just always giving back to the people who've done a lot for me, my journey.
What kind of impact has your dad had in particular on navigating the fact that when you got into college football, it was kind of a business. Now it's more of a business. And I mean, this isn't the NFL with certified agents.
Right.
There are agents, and then I'm going to use air quotes for agents. How has your dad been an asset in helping you navigate all the business realities? Because you're making a familial and educational decision with Wake Forest, but let's be real, also a business decision.
Right. I think it's interesting because it's a very like new situation for all of us. Like you said, my dad went through kind of a different age of what this college football looks like. So he's doing his best to, catch himself up on it. And that's, what he loves to do. He's always like my biggest supporter. So if he's not at home watching film, he's reading up on college football and different things like that. So, him gaining his own knowledge on the situation and kind of helping me navigate just from a side of just what's right, as a, player and what's right for the team and different things like that. So just keeping those ideas and those mottos in my head has always been something he's been able to help me with throughout that journey.
Langston Hardy of Wake Forest with us here in the Fast Lane. Langston, seeing you pregame, everybody's got their own pregame. I don't know if rituals and routines are there. You mentioned that you flip a switch. You also seem to have some religious component to how you get yourself mentally ready. How do you blend all that together as a player?
I think for me, my biggest thing is I like to be at peace before I, go out and play. So I always like to walk around the stadium before I get there. My Mimi had passed away. My dad's mom passed away about 3-4 years ago now, but I always same spot. I wear number 11. So 11, section 11 in the stadium, I always stop. And that's where I stop to pray and, speak to her for a little bit. Just makes me like center myself and get ready to play. I like to talk to my family, my girlfriend before I play, just make sure that, I like to know they're watching me. So, they're tuned in, watching me, ready to go. And then from there, it's just, I enter like, more of that flow state. It's like, if I feel calm before the game, I know that switch can flip once the whistle blows. So that's kind of like my biggest thing before the game.
So you mentioned that we do a thing called Faith Fridays, and we ask people just some different questions about their faith and the role it plays. You mentioned centering yourself. How much is your faith and your prayer and your routine gotten you to a point where you can flip the switch when you need to be aggressive, but also be calm enough to know that you're playing through the whistle, but maybe not after the whistle.
Right. I think it's definitely all credits to the Lord. Having a relationship with God and has really helped me as a man and just as a human, just to be, like you said, like be centered with myself and know that I can be calm in moments where I need to be calm, and then when it's time to flip that switch, I can do that. Just knowing that I have my Savior who's there to support me through anything I'm going through, just really allows me to be at peace with my decisions I make and just like you said, flipping that switch and just going out there and getting after it on Saturdays.
I would imagine that's crucial because
Yeah.
you got to be running through
Right,
people
right,
as
for
well.
sure. Yeah.
You're not trying to permanently hurt them, but
Yeah.
you're trying to hurt them in the football
Definitely,
sense.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Langston Hardy with us here from Wake Forest, who's with us in the fast lane, looking ahead to the start of their season. You played wide receiver in high school.
Mhm.
You played baseball in high school. Which one do you miss more?
That's tough. I'll probably say I miss baseball more. I think my mom's first love for us was baseball, just because she loved watching us play baseball, and I was always a pretty good baseball player. So I do miss hitting. So I like to support the Deeks, the baseball team at Wake Forest. So I like to go to a lot of games, and that's kind of how I get my baseball kick in. Being able to watch them, know a few guys on the team. So seeing them kind of live out their dreams too is always something I like to do, support the other sports teams. So that's kind of how I get my extra sports kick.
What value for all of that has it given you? I mean, you're an edge rusher right now. The ability to turn all that in and be disciplined enough. I know we talked about centering yourself, but you're a tackle for loss leader oftentimes for Wake Forest and the ACC. That's run stopping as well as getting after the quarterback. Being able to not just, hey, the snap is made, I'm going after the quarterback. Like teams run the football, you know?
Sir, yeah. I think the biggest thing is I just like to be a versatile player. So making sure I can do everything, whether that be dropping in coverage, like you said, making plays in the run, rushing the passer. So the biggest thing my dad was talking about was versatility. Versatility allows you to get on the field and stay on the field. So the more things you can do, the more valuable a player you are for the team. And that's always something I wanted to be. So if I can make plays doing, anything that I can do to help support the team, I'm always going to be, one to do that. So
Langston Hardy, Edge, Wake Forest, Demon Deacons with us here in the Fast Lane. Langston, thank you for ping-ponging through a number of different topics to kick off day 3 of our coverage here in the Fast Lane.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
And meanwhile, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, they will try to be one of those teams to knock off the Miami Hurricanes, which begs the question, can anybody dethrone the Miami Hurricanes, who technically did not win the ACC last year, but they did make it to the national championship game and fell just short of a national title. And most everybody is expecting them to be the clear favorite as the number 1 team to represent the ACC in Charlotte. So we ask that question now here in the Fast Lane of our next guest, Tom Luginbill of ESPN and the ACC Network. What's the gap between Miami and the rest of the ACC?
I think when you combine talent, depth, and the really nice balance between player development and retention and additions to the transfer portal, they're probably the most well-rounded team in the league in those 3 areas. And so, it's hard to not be a team now that doesn't have a 35, 40, 45-man roster turnover, and Miami's put themselves in a position where they have developed their kids that they've recruited. They've been able to keep most of them, so they don't have to bring in as many guys in the transfer portal. I think that gives them a big advantage.
So when you look at the challengers to the Miami Hurricanes amongst the rest of the ACC, what are the factors that you're looking for?
Well, I think you've got to look at teams that, feel good about their quarterback, because if you come in and you've got an established quarterback and you feel good about that guy, that kind of gives you a leg up because it gives you a little room to put the rest of the team together around that guy. Whereas if you don't have that, you're probably going to be in trouble. And so I think NC State has that, obviously, with CJ Bailey. SMU has that. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Louisville plays this thing out under center at quarterback, because Jeff Brom did something that he hasn't done each of the last 3 cycles. He went out and got 3 consecutive quarterbacks that he brought in that were all upperclassmen and that had played a lot of football. This year he goes and gets Ohio State transfer Lincoln Keenholz, who hasn't played any football, and then took the West Georgia transfer, out of the FCS ranks. So they don't go into the season. They got a really good football team, but they don't go into the season with a guy that you say, okay, there's proof in the pudding in this guy. We've seen him play a lot of football. So I do still think, though, that Louisville, Clemson, NC State, SMU are probably the chief contenders to Miami.
So you referenced each of those teams. You did not mention any of schools from the Commonwealth of Virginia. How do you expect James Franklin and Virginia Tech to handle the fact that they may be one of those trendy dark horses, but if you look up and down the roster, it really looks like he's in a spot where he's rebuilding it?
Well, he is rebuilding it, but what he has done is he's taken a page out of Kurt Cignetti's playbook up at Indiana. And what he's done is he's targeted experience and starts. And when you look at their roster, it's like 71% of it returns, whether it was somebody they retained or somebody they brought in. 71% of that roster is upperclassmen with considerable starts. So I think that in and of itself is a huge step in the right direction. He's got a familiar quarterback, a familiar coordinator, familiar tight end. He's able to bring over some guys in the high school recruiting ranks, and he's got a manageable schedule. So to me, Ethan Grunkemeyer at quarterback, he completed 76% of his passes the last 3 weeks of the season last year as a freshman. So I think he showed enough to where they say, okay, we can build the program around this guy. And Virginia Tech's had some instability at quarterback. They've had injuries. They've had a revolving door, and it hasn't been stable. So I think if he can bring stability, that gives them a shot. I actually agree with you. I do think they could be a dark horse type team.
So do you view this as a team that is likely to get to that upper echelon where they challenge all the teams that are projected to be at the top of the ACC, or is this more of a team that's kind of an 8 to 9 win team at their best?
I would probably say early prognostications would say an 8 to 9 win team would be something that would be a real positive start because here's the thing that's so different now than it was 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago. Is it used to be when you took over a job, you inherited that team, all of that team, and that team wasn't leaving, right? And the only guys coming in were the guys that you recruited out of the high school ranks. Well, now that's not the case. It's so much harder to project what a team's going to be because it could be 30 guys. It could be 45 new guys. It's going to be a mix of high school kids, a mix of transfer guys. And how quickly can you build a team? You can collect talent, but how quickly can you build a team, which makes it so hard to project? So with their schedule and, having somewhat of an established quarterback, could they be a team that, kind of comes out of nowhere like Virginia did a year ago? Potentially. But it's so hard to project that now because there's so many unknown variables.
ESPN and the ACC network analyst Tom Luginbill is stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane at the ACC kickoff. The other side of the Commonwealth, the Virginia Cavaliers, who come off a really impressive year last year, even though it fell short in the ACC championship game. Yet it seems like they start over at quarterback with Bo Pribula. They have a lot of other players that were graduate level players last year. Is this more of a rebuild than people think?
I'm not sure. And the reason is 3 words: schedule, schedule, schedule. I don't know how they've done it, but for 2 years in a row, Virginia has the most forgiving schedule of anybody in the conference. So they've got that in front of them right now. They don't play a top 30 scheduled preseason ranked team in the entire slate of the season. So I think that's a positive, especially when you are rebuilding in some spots. But what I believe Virginia's done is they've changed the inside narrative, meaning their locker room, how they are perceived, of what the program is and what it's trending towards becoming. And when you do that, you become more attractive. Right? So they became more attractive in the transfer portal market. They became more attractive in high school recruiting. And that kind of lends people to want to be a part of that. And I credit the administration for being patient, understanding this was a total overhaul, giving Tony Scott more of resources to actually compete on a national market. I think they're going to be pretty good. I mean, they didn't just get Bo Pribula. They got Eli Holstein, who's played a ton of reps too.
You mentioned what you're getting out of that. A couple more questions for ACC Network and ESPN analyst Tom Luginbill, who's with us here in the Fast Lane. One of those questions on Virginia and what they're getting through this season is, do you see a coherent plan in place where this is not just going after the transfers every market, but they're now supplementing that by longer tenure transfers or high school recruits?
I think they have to. I think at a place like Virginia, academically, you're going to be recruiting a certain guy, right? And that guy has to really want to be at Virginia. And then if he develops and you're able to put that player in a position to force you as a coaching staff, hey, we got to make a decision on whether we want to retain this guy. And you hope that you make the right decisions on guys out of the high school ranks so that you have that foundation of youth, and then you complement it with maybe a transfer portal guy that was a redshirt sophomore last year, still has 2 years of eligibility, or maybe he was a redshirt freshman, had a monster year, now he's got 3 years of eligibility left. You got to blend those two.
Last one for Tom Luginbill, who's generous enough to join us here in the Fast Lane. Tom, you outline a lot of positive elements to Virginia. Is this a school now that can attract players and retain players, not just based on money, but based on culture, a path to development and winning?
I think the answer to that question is kind of individualized off of what players are looking for, right? If a guy is just looking for money, all right, that may not be somebody that's going to be a fit for Virginia. And Virginia may be best not to be investing in that player. I think you have to find a guy that has invested in academics, likes the locker room, likes the environment on campus. You got to find other traits that are important to that player. And that's not easy to do now because it's all money, 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 money. And with a place like Virginia, you might have some money to compete in some instances, but you're not going to have the type of money to compete for, the highest level player on the market. That's not who they are. So it's really important that you're targeting the right guys that want to be there, that love football.
Tom Luginbill, ACC Network and ESPN analyst, with us here in the Fast Lane. Tom, great to chat. We
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate your time and perspective.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Tom Luganville with us here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with the Terry Auto Group. If you don't love your car, then you're simply just driving the wrong one. At Terry Volkswagen, Terry Subaru, Terry Auto Outlet, and the Terry Clearance Center, we've got the perfect new or used car for you. We make your car buying experience easy. Need help with imperfect credit? No problem. Our team works hard to get you approved and back on the road. Because when you shop at Terry, you drive away happy. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or online at terryautogroup.com. Terry Auto Group. You'll love our cars.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So we're at the ACC kickoff. We're also doing a little Fate Fridays discussions today here in the Fast Lane with NC State defensive lineman Isaiah Shirley, who once upon a time was actually a tight end at NC State. Who came to you and told you that it might be wise to make the switch to a completely different position?
Yeah, that's a funny story. I love telling it. So basically, I was a freshman, came in defensive line, was on scout team, giving those guys the best look I could. And Coach Doran called me up to his office, and I kind of already knew what it was going to be about because I played tight end in high school, and he kind of mentioned stuff to me briefly. And he was like, hey, man, we kind of need help at tight end. Would you basically, like, I want you to step in and play tight end for the rest of your freshman game because I wasn't playing on defense. We had great players in the room, so I wasn't playing on defense. So it was like, okay, let's play some tight end. And, let's get her done. Let's help the team. So I was like, yes, sir, coach. I'm excited for the opportunity. They caught me up on the plays. The next Saturday against Virginia Tech, I was in the game playing. So I was excited and young and ready to go. So
I am asking this in this day and age where there are agents, there are more people involved in an athlete's decision than ever before. Did rebuffing those attempts ever enter your mind at all?
No, sir. Because number one, I came there to play football at NC State. I came to help the team. I was a freshman. I wasn't helping the team other than on scout team. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's about football at the end of the day. And that's what I tell guys. It's about playing football. That's what you came here to do. And that was the opportunity I was given at that time. And I also knew it wasn't permanent. I was supposed to go back to defense. That was always the plan, to go back to defense, maybe play a little bit of both even. So I wasn't necessarily upset. I was excited for the opportunity and ready to play some football. I mean, I was just craving to get on that field. So I didn't matter what I played.
How much of your background in high school at Watauga playing defensive line and tight end gave you maybe the confidence, maybe the internal knowledge that it's going to be a change, but you've done some of those similar things before?
It helped me extremely. Coach Hobbick didn't take me off the field. He let me play a lot. I got to play tight end, and defensive line. It's funny. I told guys this is there's nothing like whenever you just get a third down stop or fourth down stop and you watch everybody else run off and you're like, all right, it's time to play offense again or whatever it may be. But the things that he taught me, just the simple things of, the double teams and the way that works and who you're trying to block. It was crucial to me learning that position that fast. They were like, hey, this is basically what you did in high school. You're going to do this, pick up this guy if this happens. It was very simple. I was able to go in. It was very natural. And all I needed to do was just be physical, really.
NC State defensive lineman Isaiah Shirley is with us here in the Fast Lane. We do Faith Fridays as well. What role did your Christian faith play in you being receptive to the move from tight end to defensive lineman?
Well, everybody says it, is God has a plan. He had an ultimate plan for me before I even got to NC State. And I was like, you know what, God, I've asked you, coach, give me an opportunity to play if that's your will. And he answered it just in a different way that I didn't expect. So, of course, I was like, thank you. I was nothing but gratitude towards God, towards coach, towards the whole experience. And like I said, I I would do it again. I would play tight end again. Like, it's about helping the team. It's about serving. That's what Jesus ultimately did for us. He came down on this earth and served people who killed him, at the end of the day, and he died for us in our sins. So it's like, when you look at it that way and look at the ultimate server, it's like, I'm called to do this. It's not like I should. It's no, I'm called to serve and do this for the team, even if I don't want to necessarily.
How is that different for some athletes in this culture? And I'm not asking you to single anyone out.
Yeah.
But how does that maybe create a bond between you and other athletes at NC State and other football players with a similar mindset?
Yeah. Well, those guys that feel the same way, it's like you want to play for those guys even harder because you know that they're playing for something bigger than themselves and they're playing for something, the ultimate mission that you guys both believe in, which is to get people to the kingdom of God. I mean, that's really what the whole point of us on earth is, to get people to know Jesus Christ so that when they die, they spend eternity with him. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So when you have teammates who agree with that and they feel the same way, you guys play harder for each other. And I feel like in the culture we live in, it's very, especially with the, like you said, the agents and the stuff like that, it's very, they get these young kids and they make it very about, it's about you, it's about you, it's about you. But when you realize and you see the love of Christ, it's not about you at all. You're a very little piece within this whole larger purpose. And I feel like when guys can do that and understand that, you, like I said, you're down to serve and play a different position. It's okay. It doesn't matter who you are. You'll show humility and help that freshman out. If you get held accountable, you're like, no, this is for my good. You know what I'm saying? And when you have that mindset and you have that faith, it's dangerous for an athlete, in my opinion. I mean, Christian athletes, I've heard this from podcasts, Christian athletes should be the most dangerous athletes around, because you're playing for somebody, an audience of one. And no matter what happens, he's going to love you the same. So go out there and just play and serve and love each other. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's easier said than done. And that's where, leaning on your brothers who do, like you said, that do believe what you believe. And that's when you lean on them for guidance. Hey, man, I messed up today. Can you help me? Kind of thing. And I feel like that's the ultimate humility, which our Savior, Jesus Christ, showed on earth.
Isaiah Shirley, NC State defensive lineman, with us here in the Fast Lane on a special Faith Fridays edition from the ACC kickoff. How has your Christian faith also helped you navigate a world where there are more agents, it seems, in college than in the pros? The lack of certification contributes to that. How has your faith enabled you to determine who to surround yourself with that understands the need for the right business interests, but also understands who Isaiah Shirley is, and it's not just about the money?
I think ultimately, like you said, you have to be around people who understand your faith, who not only, I would even argue, have the same faith that you have and believe in the same God that you believe in. I feel like the Bible talks about you need to be equally yoked with your partner, right? But you need to be equally yoked with the people around you as well. Not saying you should only hang out with people that are like you. No, you should be diverse and have diverse groups. But it's very important who you surround yourself with in your circle. I read something today in Proverbs talking about, men who have many companions, it's for destruction, but a one friend sticks closer than a brother. And that's in Proverbs 18. It's like, that's real. Like, your circle needs to be small and for things like that. So when I'm looking for people giving me guidance, it's like, okay, what do you believe? How do you treat your wife? How do you treat your family? How do you treat others around you? Like, that was important to me even now, but even in the recruiting process, like, how do you treat others? I want to see how you serve. You can tell me all these things you can give me, but I want to see how you live your life, because that's ultimately a reflection of who you really are. So
Athletes in Action, how'd you get involved with them at NC State?
So I was kind of on and off when I first got there. I heard about this group. I knew I was looking for a Christian community. I was like, okay, this is cool. I showed up to a couple meetings. It's late at night, so that's what got me at first. It's like 8 to 9, and I was a freshman during the season. I'm like, oh my word, I'm tired as I've ever been. But I kind of stuck with it, kept going. About a year into it, I got asked to be on the action team, which is like the leader team, and that's really when I started getting discipled, getting sharpened by older people and also the leaders of the AIA. And I've got to do some cool things with Athletes in Action. Me and my brother, who used to play football at NC State with me, we got to go to Italy and serve at the Special Olympics. Like, it's just been great, the opportunity that organization has given me in college football, and it's really like kind of shaped my experience in a way. And I'm just so thankful for the community that I have. I mean, my girlfriend, Lord willing, hope to be my wife one day, she's involved in it. So like, it's just a great community where you're able to walk in the light and have other believers sharpen you that are in the same situation as you.
Is your girlfriend an athlete at NC State?
She sure is. She plays softball. Her name is Kayla Feckel. Pitcher, look out for her. She's coming next season.
We'll have to keep our eyes out for that. How much of an advantage in dating is it to have somebody who understands what you're going through, both in the Christian side of things, but also the athlete demands, although I'd imagine making time for each other is a challenge.
Yeah, I tell guys it's crucial. Like you said, back to equally yoked, but also someone that can understand that, hey, I have film study, or hey, I have extra work. They understand that because they're living the same life, and you're able to grow together, but also understand each other at such a deeper level. I feel like, I'm not saying it can't be done, but when it's the other way around, when non-athlete to regular student, they have a hard time understanding, bro, why are you always so busy? Like, is it me? And then I've had a lot of guys that have had issues with that. But like I said, I'm so thankful for God for bringing her into my life. She's really helped me a lot in these past couple of years. NC State sharpening me as well. I'm grateful for her family and all that. So it's been big time.
Who is Jesus Christ to you? I'm still in the question, by the way, from the Sports Spectrum podcast.
Yeah. So who's Jesus Christ to me? He's my Lord and Savior. You know, he came down and he died for me on a cross, and that's ultimately what it was. And now he has me out here getting all these great opportunities to give him the glory. And I can't thank him enough. And I'm just so thankful that he chose someone like me to be a part of his kingdom.
Last one for Isaiah Shirley. You guys open against Virginia.
Yeah.
Week 0 still, but it's not in Brazil. Now it's in Scott Stadium. How has all of the noise around the move from Brazil to Charlottesville impacted you in your preparation for the Wahoos, a team that you guys saw last year in Raleigh?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like, okay, we don't have to worry about that flight. Now we can go up there and just business trip. Just go up there, play the game, and get back home and enjoy our bye week going into a long season. I feel like a lot of guys didn't flinch when it happened. It's like, it is what it is. And we have a very, so what, now what culture at NC State. So what, now what? We still have a game to win. If anything, the logistics are going to help us get it done more than I think in Brazil personally. But I'm like I said, I'm upset that we didn't get to go down there and experience that. But like I said, God has a plan, and he has a reason for us staying up here. And God be the glory whatever happens that game.
I misspoke. Do you like the week 0 and then the bye?
Yeah, I do like the week 0 then the bye because selfishly, I have a teammate who I used to play with, and I get to go see him play on that bye week. So that's gonna be cool, which I never would get to see because we both play football on Saturdays. So selfishly, that's cool, and I think it's nice to go in with the Lord willing a win, right? And then you go into a bye week. Now you're ready to attack this long season. You know what I'm saying?
Isaiah Shirley, NC State defensive lineman, with us here in the Fast Lane on a Faith Fridays edition, talking a little faith, a little football, and a little family. Got all 3 of the F's knocked out of the way. Isaiah, thank you for your time. We're glad we could connect.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
It's Isaiah Shirley, NC State defensive lineman, with us here in the Fast Lane. And now we pivot from that, looking ahead to the upcoming ACC season with Jay Green, the linebacker for the Stanford Cardinal, who is generous enough to give us a little bit of his time from our coverage at the ACC kickoff presented by Black Goose Chimney Service. Jay, a pleasure to be speaking with you. You're getting ready for your first camp under new coach Tavita Pritchard. Last year, it was Frank Reich in an interim role. You've been through these things before as well when you were at Washington. What are your expectations now, having gone through spring ball, and now is it dread? Is it excitement? What's the energy like knowing what awaits in the next couple of weeks?
I would say me personally, I'm excited. You know what I mean? Everybody's excited when they go into a new season, but I'm excited because we get to really see the depths of which our coaches are going to go and embrace the players. You know what I mean? Everybody, we're not used to the new scheme that may be embedded in us. We're not used to seeing an offense that's going to move as fast as we do. And there's a lot of different intricacies that go into that. So I'm excited to just see how it all come to fruition as we go into week 0.
What motivated you after coming from Washington to Stanford and going through the different coaching changes now? You're on your 4th coach if you count, maybe the interim with Frank Reich, head coach, and just different expectations. What motivated you to stick at Stanford in spite of all that?
Well, of course, that wasn't expected that I would be on my 4th coach. Lord willing, I hope that I would only played on one coach, but that it just happened to play that way. But however, I think something in that locker room made me stick around. I think in this new age, of course, where people, jump from team to team, year to year, whatever it may be, I don't think it comes down to dollar amounts or what can be done for me. I think it more comes down to the brotherhood in the locker room. And that's kind of what made me stick around as long as I have.
So you mentioned the brotherhood in the locker room. I'm sure you don't turn down rev share and NIL opportunities, but for you, is it about more than just that, at least especially the college experience?
Yeah, for me, it's way more than that. I think money is something that will run out eventually. And of course, like you said, I'm not going to turn down X amount of money, of course. And Lord willing, I'm paid compensated for what, I do or whatever, fairly to the market. Okay, cool. But I think for me personally, I think building connections with people is way more important than any amount of dollars you can give me, because that's something I can have forever. Eventually, everyone's bank account is going to say zero. Eventually, one day. So I want to live in a way that's, positive and productive right now.
You've mentioned faith-based commentary. In just a moment, we do things called Faith Fridays in the past.
Okay.
People go in depth into that. Is that a big part of who you are?
That's right up my lane. Yeah, for sure. That God has definitely been working on my life in a lot of ways. I think He's changed my life through my injury 2 years ago, and it made me truly come to Him and realize that I should give all the glory to Him in everything that I do. It made me realize that none of this that I've accomplished or I've achieved in this life is due to my own works, that it says in the Bible, but due to Him. And my kind of goal right now is just to hear Him and obey Him for who He is.
So you mentioned the injury. Some people, it's a slow process with their faith. Some people, it's more of a big moment. Was that a subliminal moment for you, or is that just more part of a faith journey that's been part of you for a while?
I would say I've always believed in God, but I think there's a difference between believing in God and knowing God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I think definitely after my injury, it made me really sit back and understand who God is and how He reflects in my life. You know what I mean? I feel like He had to break me down in a way to build me back up, and it kind of relates to the potter. You know what I mean? God gives an example of this potter basically making this clay or whatever. And, he messes up and he breaks it down, and then he builds something else. And then it's basically God saying that, look, this is what I will do to Jerusalem if people continue to sin against me. And that's kind of how I am as a person. You know what I mean? I feel like God had to break me down to build me back up. And I'm more than appreciative for that.
Jay Green, linebacker, Stanford Cardinal, with us here in the Fast Lane, touching on some faith elements. We do a Faith Fridays thing each week. We just mentioned that to Jay, where people are open about their particular faith, as well as talking sports, because that's part of what we do as well. Blending those two elements together, where do you turn on your team in terms of resources to strengthen your faith?
Yeah, I would say there's one particular guy I want to mention. His name is Fisher Anderson. He's an O-lineman there at Stanford, and you can ask anybody on the team. His walk with God just enables us to just keep pushing forward. He sets up Bible studies and things like that. He goes and retreats with the O-lineman all the time. And he's kind of someone, and I've told him, I was like, Fish, you've changed my life more than you know. And it's just kind of someone I watch and allow God to work through him to ultimately reach me. And another guy is Brandon Nicholson, who also plays corner. And that's someone who I truly lean on as far as faith bounding, and we go to church together and everything like that. So it's great.
How much has that helped you as a whole? We kind of go back to the idea of transferring. You did it once from Washington to Stanford, but understanding, I would imagine bigger picture, seeing things beyond just the immediate dollar signs.
Yeah.
With Stanford, I would imagine there's an appeal as well to the fact that a Stanford degree is not to disparage other schools, but there's got to be some value in that.
Yeah, I would say it's the best value in college football. So I'm grateful. I graduated not too long ago, so I'm grateful for that. And it's changed a lot of things. I mean, who would want to necessarily leave Stanford for the wrong reasons? I would say coaching is one thing, but like I said, the players is what the buy-in is about. You know what I mean? And if you can get everyone to buy in under one coach, it doesn't matter who the coach is, because those players are going to execute that job. It comes down to scheme and relationships at that point. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Jay Green with us here, linebacker for the Stanford Cardinal. Jay, your expectations now heading into camp, not necessarily just season expectations, but the expectations heading into camp. Where are you in terms of what you want to not just do for yourself, but to be able to bring your teammates along?
Me personally, I want us to all be at the same level. You know what I mean? I think a lot of years previously, we can see that we have to play younger guys later in the season because maybe somebody got hurt, or whatever the situation may be. However, when those younger guys coming through camp, I want them to have the same experience as the older guy. So when they do get in the fall, that there's no drop off between the first string and the third string. Why should there be? You know what I mean? And if everyone can consistently push each other, that enables everyone to get better because we're all the same level. So now we're all competing against each other, which is good, but it's friendly and we're family, so we appreciate it.
So bringing a bond together amongst your team, do you describe yourself as a vocal leader, as a quiet leader, or both?
I would say I'm a little bit of both. Some days I can be quiet and lead by example, you know what I mean? And that's more game time. I don't really talk that much before the games and things like that. However, during practice, if I say something, I speak on it because I know that if I have some conviction, like, I should have spoken on that, but I didn't, I will feel bad because I didn't encourage my teammate to be better than what he was. So, you know what I mean? I feel like I can be both vocal and quiet at the same time. It just depends on the situation.
You mentioned not talking much before the game. What about during the game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I say some. I talk a lot during the game, but mostly, you can ask anybody. Mostly, I love to have fun. It's mostly just jokes and stuff like that. Like, at the end of the day, this is a game that we play that I love, and it's done so much for my life. And I just love having fun doing it. You know, it's a serious day on Saturdays. However, we worked Monday through Friday to and all that work to go have fun on Saturday. So that's what I kind of think about.
Jay Green, linebacker for the Stanford Cardinal, with us here in the Fast Lane. Jay, it's been awesome to catch up with you. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate going through a myriad of different topics.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Big transitions feel like big hurdles. That's why Central Virginia Counseling has 2 dynamic 6-week summer groups for rising 6th and 9th graders packed with essential life skills. Each week targets a new skill for success, tools like organization, time management, task initiation, anxiety reduction techniques, and skills for making friends and communicating well. Through peer connection and expert guidance, students will gain tools to feel capable, connected, and ready for day one. Visit us on Timberlake Road or Wigington Road in Lynchburg or at centralvirginiacounseling.com to learn more.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
Time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Third part of our Friday edition of the Fast Lane. We do Faith Fridays. We've had some good content for that where people talk faith, they talk sports. Leaps of Faith are also part of the journey of our next guest, Terry Spain, who is with us here. Consulting is the background, but he's also in sports media. He's been at the ACC kickoff and the ACC tip-off a number of times, covers the Florida schools, which is where he's based down in Orlando. All right, first of all, how much of that did I get right, Terry, for your credentials?
You are about 100% correct, man. I thank you for that. I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time, but thank you for acknowledging that.
For sure. Your background. You were in consulting. You are in the military as well.
Correct.
We, first of all, thank you for your service in the Navy and
Appreciate
are
it.
appreciative of that. When you were there, did you always have an eye on getting into sports media at some point?
Yeah, this has been something that I've been doing for quite some time. I've been doing sports media for about 25, 26 years. I actually got my first break. We talked about this before. When I was stationed in Pensacola, I was asked to cover the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. And that's how I got my break into sports media. But like I said, I'm a sports guy. I've been playing sports in high school and in the Navy. So it kind of worked hand in hand because in the Navy, I was a mass communications chief, which is broadcasting, public affairs, and everything like that.
He's got the Orlando Sports Report. It actually covers all of Florida-based sports when you factor in FSU, Miami. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
When you came from the military, you were in fill me in on the role. You were on President Obama's staff. In what capacity?
Well, when I was in the Navy, I was at the Washington Navy Yard, and I was a part of the National Capital Region, which was a part of his staff to include the White House. And we did a lot of leadership, diversity and inclusion, PR stuff. So it was a combination of a lot of different things.
I'll ask you this because people hear the phrase DEI. I think diversity of race, gender, background, religion, opinion in business are a good thing because it brings in perspectives and brings in blind spots. Is that more what, in your eyes, that concept is about in sports media as opposed to just checking the box of we have a female, we have a white, we have an African American? It's getting more qualified voices, perspectives, and opinions?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in and making sure that everybody get a fair shake. You know, there's some people that oftentimes gets overlooked, and it could be because of one of those protected categories. But the biggest thing is you have to put in the work, you know, and if you're able to put in the work and you get acknowledged for your work and do things like that, that's what it's all about. But giving people a fair shake and a fair chance, that's what it's all about, and particularly in sports as well.
Terry Spain is with us here in the Fast Lane. You do sports commentary with your Orlando Sports Report. You cover the ACC, among other
Yes.
sports-based stories. I want to be clear that that's not all you cover, but that's why you're at the ACC kickoff on our coverage presented by Black Goose Chimney Service. Get that chimney ready for the winter. Make sure it's safe. BlackGoose.net to schedule your appointments. The idea of sports media, I tell people all the time, back in my day, at 40, sounding like I'm going on 95.
You're young, man.
But seriously, back in the day, you had to move to smaller areas. You had to be more mobile.
Mhm.
How much has the internet, YouTube, podcasting, other platforms given you an opportunity to break ground, get your feet wet, and now all of a sudden expand what you're able to do when that just wasn't on the table years ago?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I remember, like I said, I got my first break in 2000. There was really no internet and, a lot of these digital media and platforms that we have now, but it's definitely helpful. I can see how, and I've seen how it has helped a lot of people get into the sports media world because it provides a lot of flexibility for a lot of people. So it's just amazing to see all the technology. And I learn from a lot of young people, even when I'm broadcasting or I'm going to different places. I always see the latest and greatest with a lot of these young folks and what they're doing. And they kind of show me and give me, I'm even though I'm a lot older than they are, I'm not ashamed to learn from them. And they love it. They love teaching people that they know that are older than them that can give them the eye. And I love technology, so it just kind of works out when I'm broadcasting.
You mentioned relating to younger people. I mean, we got a younger staff with our Virginia Talk Radio Network. It's kind of the nature of the position. JJ's the latest. He's doing a great job. We've had some I call them graduates, which means they've gotten to the point where they have justifiably had skills that have priced themselves out of where we are. And that's no knock on them. It's just, there's the perception that younger people don't want to learn. They're buried in their phones. I know that there are some that are in that category, but how much have you also found that sometimes if you just make an effort to connect with them, they actually will give you a lot more information than you might have realized?
Yeah, and that's what they want. I oftentimes tell people this is the first time that we've had 5 generations working together in the same workforce. Just look how amazing that is. That younger folks can learn from older people and older people can learn from younger folks. But it used to be a rift because some of the older folks didn't want to give the reins over to the younger folks because they felt like they couldn't learn from them. But with this technology, they don't have no choice. They had to succumb to a lot of the stuff, in particular with broadcasting and mass communications and sports communication as well.
Is that part of the reason you wrote the book, Hey Young Man?
That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Hey Young Man, and it has been doing exceptionally well, and it allowed me to go over to Africa to teach and do an empowerment summit over there to empower some of those young men that are over there that didn't have an opportunity to come to the United States. So we brought the United States over to them.
Total side note with Terry Spain, Orlando Sports Report. He covers the ACC, among other sports topics. Big with the Florida schools, and we can get to that in a moment as he's with us here in our coverage of the ACC kickoff, which is presented by Black Goose Chimney Service. It's also hot and humid this summer. The chimney may be a spot for heat and humidity. BlackGoose.net to schedule your appointment and see if that is a liability for your house that can be addressed. They can give you an idea of what you might be able to do to make it an even safer place. You mentioned Africa. The reason I said total side note is, did you have any Ethiopian food while you were over there?
Yeah, I did, to get an opportunity to eat some Ethiopian food. And I ate some when I was in Washington, D.C. They have a huge population there as well. So I try to find some of the restaurants that they have over there. Excellent food.
It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I am a huge fan of that. We don't have it in Lynchburg, Virginia. So when I go to bigger cities, it's one of the, I will ride share out of the way by 15, 20 minutes just to get some.
You sound like me.
I know. What's a little adventure, right?
Yeah, why not?
All right, we are here at the ACC kickoff, though, with Terry Spain.
Yes.
There are a number of overarching storylines. One of them, and it's in your backyard, Virginia Tech is a big rival of Miami. Virginia is actually closer in terms of catching them. Virginia played for the ACC championship last year and lost narrowly. But is everybody really chasing Miami in the ACC?
I think that's the sexy pick, if folks chasing Miami, because they do have a lot of talent and you can't take that away from them. But will I say that Miami's leading the pack? Yeah, they probably are, in particular all the hype and all the players that they have. So they're not really chasing them. I think they're just coming alongside with them.
You mentioned coming alongside with Miami. When you look at it, is it Miami's guaranteed in the ACC championship game? Do you think there are more pitfalls? And I don't count Notre Dame, they could lose, but that doesn't count in the conference race.
Right.
What is your view on the Hurricanes in their spot to, ironically, they almost won the national title last year.
Yeah.
They were closer to that than they were an ACC title.
Yeah, but anytime that you switch quarterbacks, and you got to realize, and I tell people this, Miami had a lot of talent on the defensive line that is no longer there, and they had a good offensive line as well, and some of those guys are not there either. So trying to replace those guys, it's going to be real tough. It's easier said than done, and they're replacing a quarterback. This is the third year that Miami has gotten a quarterback out of the transfer portal, and it's just not always set in stone that, okay, because you have a really good quarterback that it's going to work. Even though Mensa has been in the ACC championship and won it last year, it's still it's the continuity, it's everything that comes along with that. So they have a lot of talent, and they're going to be hard to beat.
You mentioned a lot of talent. How much of that is the result of when people think of Miami? They think of buying players off of other rosters. They have done that in certain cases, really since Akeem Mesidor and Daryl Porter Jr., who were West Virginia guys who went there at the start of the NIL transfer era.
Yeah.
But how much of their success really is the fact that the majority of their core has been proper high school identification and then building and retaining internally?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're doing that now, but I think a lot of teams have fallen, plague to the transfer portal. But you take a look at what Miami has done with Malachi Toney, this young man that they recruited out of high school. So that's a success story for them. They do get a heavy influx of transfer portals, but I think a lot of players, even Clemson is now have succumbed to getting transfer players out of the transfer portal. Sorry. And so I think it's kind of natural now that a lot of teams are doing it, but they were obviously, when I say Miami were kind of known for buying players or recruiting players, but now it's kind of the U has their swag back, so it's kind of like a privilege for playing for Miami. You don't have to do so much of a heavy recruiting. And I'm a Florida State guy, so it's kind of good to see that rivalry hopefully sparks back up as well, because there's a lot of great teams in the ACC.
You mentioned Florida State. They are with North Carolina and Clemson, the three programs that you kind of look at where they're big brands, they have bigger name coaches / expectations, but all of them, am I off base in feeling like they're all at a turning point where if things go south early, you kind of wonder, especially in this day and age where players transfer, they may not be 2 to 3 win talent, but 2 to 3 win results, because things could implode quickly.
Yeah, and that's one of the, I guess, the beauties of being in the ACC, because you don't know who's actually going to win this year. Everybody has their clear-cut favorites, so they think Miami, but there's teams like SMU and Virginia Tech that can come out and do some damage. But it's going to be an exciting season, man. I'm just waiting, and I'm excited to see what everything is going to take place within the ACC, and I'm definitely going to be back here in Charlotte for the ACC championship.
What's your level of concern about Florida State that if it goes south early, they have a coach that's on one of the hottest seats, it appears, from the outside. He came to the ACC kickoff. It seemed like he was just body language. You probably read this better being a former Navy guy and being a consultant, but he seems like he's wearing, Mike Norvell at Florida State, wearing a lot of that pressure. And at some point, if that gets to you in the locker room, finds out, that one seems like the one that has the biggest chance for they've got to start fast.
Yeah, they definitely have to start fast. And that week 0 game that they're playing against New Mexico State, that's going to have to be a statement win. Doesn't matter who they're playing, but that has to be a statement win. A lot of people, when you think of Florida State, you're accustomed to winning. You're accustomed to having all these great players and being in the mix every single year. And for that not to be the case for the last couple of years, a lot of fans, a lot of writers, a lot of journalists, they get a little antsy and they say, hey, what's going on with Florida State? Mike Norvell is a really great coach. And I really hope it works out for him, because he's put in the work. He's done a lot of great things. He's been recruiting. He's been trying to hire the right staff, recruit the right players. So I think this is definitely a put up or shut up year for him. And it's a lot of pressure for him, but I think he's built for that.
You mentioned that you've got more optimism around Florida State than some other people have in the conference. Out of that group, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, well, the ones we mentioned, a lot of pressure, kind of all boomer bust feels to the season. Is there one out of that group where you go, I'm a little leery about whether they're going to be able to reach the height that surrounds their brand?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be Clemson. Clemson's lost a lot of players, and no one's really talking about Clemson. And so, I mean, they obviously Dabo Sweeney is a great coach, and he's won championships, and he's one of the longest tenured coaches in college football. So that speaks volumes. But that "what have you done for me" syndrome in college football is live and well. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, Clemson haven't done anything in a while. Maybe we need to look in a different direction. So that's why I said Clemson.
You brought Clemson up. That's one that there's, again, high pressure, high expectations.
Yeah.
You mentioned Virginia Tech is
Yeah.
a dark horse team for a lot of people. They have a challenging schedule. There's a huge roster turnover, as you would expect, for James Franklin coming in, even though he retains Brent Pry,
Yeah.
who was the former head coach as the defensive coordinator. Externally, what's your view on the Hokies?
I think they're tough. I think they're a tough team. Franklin was able to bring some transfer guys with him. Some came from Penn State, and I think they're going to be disciplined. When I'm looking at a Franklin team, he's a disciplined coach, and you could tell just by the makeup of the players that he brought with him how disciplined and how locked in they were, even up on the stage. And so I think that transfer over to the locker room, and he's going to require that, because he's a heck of a recruiter as well, and a lot of people would want to play for him. So his goal is to, if he can get him back into that Elite 7 area in Virginia and Virginia Tech and Richmond and that entire area that a lot of teams have been stealing a lot of the great recruits from and bringing them down to Florida State, Miami, and all these different places. If he can retain those players there, I think he'll have a better outcome as well. But Virginia Tech is going to be a good team this year. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Terry Spain with us here, consultant, also Orlando Sports Report, where he covers the Florida schools in particular. Overall, when you have to make your projections for what happens in the ACC this year, who do you have appearing in front of your very eyes for that noon kickoff of the ACC championship game in what is multiple months from now, but we'll be here before you know it?
Yeah, and before I say that, I think the commissioner did a good job of lobbying for that game to be pushed to 12 o'clock versus the 7 o'clock, because he mentioned weather and all these different things. So that was a good job. But for the two teams, I'm a Florida State guy, but I'm going to be completely taking my feelings out of the equations. I actually believe it's probably going to be Miami and SMU.
Miami and SMU. A lot of people like SMU this year as kind of that extra team. People have seemingly identified SMU, Cal, and Louisville as that group that could challenge Miami most easily.
Yeah. I mean, there's no clear-cut favorite, but SMU has been putting in the work. You could see they've been playing, and one of the good things about SMU is they have the benefit of being in Texas. So in Texas, there's a big recruiting pool, just like Florida is, and so some of the players that don't go to Texas or don't go to Texas A&M, they come to either SMU or they go to Baylor. But now a lot of them are saying, you know what, I don't want to go to any of those schools. I want to go to SMU. SMU's in the ACC. And I think that's helped them out a lot ever since they made that transfer over to the ACC.
I go back to the phrase. This is one of the favorite ones that our Fast Lane listeners know. If they go to the archives at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, where they listen to podcasts. The phrase when SMU joined the ACC and they decided to forego 9 years of media rights revenue.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah, and the boosters within like a month had $100 million raised. And they asked them about foregoing the media revenue, and they said about themselves collectively, well, when you're worth a few billion, what's a couple $100 million? May we all be so fortunate.
That's the Texas attitude, man. I'm telling you, Texas is serious about football. There's a few states that are serious about football. When I lived in Texas, everything shuts down on Friday because it's Friday Night Lights. There's a lot of great teams, a lot of great players that's come out of Texas. So Texas is serious and big time, and football is big time in Texas. So I'm not surprised with what they did and what they said.
I'm gonna wrap it up on this one. I'm not joking now. I promise I'll not get distracted by that. That being, you've lived in Texas, you've lived in Florida. Your daughter's in the D.C. area, so you're familiar with Virginia. I love Virginia. I don't think it's as intense as it is in those states.
Yeah.
Which states, if you had to get, and you have to rank in order, 1, 2, 3 of the most intense high school football fan bases, where are they?
Definitely Texas 1. Florida 2, Georgia 3.
Georgia 3. I was wondering if you were going to go there.
Yeah.
A lot of talent out of that area.
A lot of talent.
People are starting to realize how much talent is in that area.
Oh yeah. And I'm a South Carolina guy, but we're neighboring states, so I figure we go hand in hand.
Well, you just lump yourself in there with it. I can't say that I blame you either. Terry Spain, Orlando Sports Report, with us here in the Fast Lane. Terry, great to catch up with you. Would look forward to doing
Likewise.
it again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Terry Spain with us here to wrap up our Friday edition of the Fast Lane. If you missed anything, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube.
Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.
This is SportsCenter.